One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet who millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
What's up, everybody, on a Wednesday afternoon edition of the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Got a lot to get through, but one of the big things is that President Trump just swore in Jeanine, Judge Jeanine Pirro, who's going to be the new U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, which is a big post. Interim. We can't seem to get anybody confirmed. So we're going to show you that first. And I've got an interview following that with Colonel Douglas McGregor, which I think you guys will enjoy. That will indeed be live, so you guys will see that. But first, I want to talk to you guys about two things. One, thanks all of you for who tuned in last night as we were going through our financial stuff and showing people about real estate. I understand that that's not everybody's cup of tea. I fully understand that. But it's important to me. It's something I like to do, and I'm sure there's some people who really want to find out about improving their lives. And if you don't, if that's something you're not interested in, well, maybe it's not your cup of tea, and we'll catch you on the flip side when we're going back to doing some new stuff like today. There's no need for you to complain in the comments, because we're going to do a show according to what I want it to portray in a show. So if you don't like it that day, think of it like a big Chinese buffet. You're in a Chinese restaurant, not that I've ever gone to any of these places, I've been told. You go through and there's different things on the buffet, and some of them you like and some of them you don't. But you go back to the restaurant for the stuff that you like. You don't go back to that restaurant because you don't like the certain, ikura or something, different food. Think of that as here. But and I have to tell you, and I'm not being cocky by saying this, but it seems as though what we're doing is actually working. And because it's working, we're pretty much going to keep doing it. You see, this is something YouTube has been doing on a weekly basis now, and it's going directly to the source. No outside apps, no different aggregators, directly from YouTube. And they just started doing it like 3 weeks ago. And the information has been quite revealing. Stunning, shocking, if you will. And so last week, I understand, I'm going to temper what I show you right now, understanding that last week, we had the Memorial Day weekend, and some people took some time off. But they ranked the top 100 podcasts on YouTube. They don't include Rumble. They don't include X, on YouTube. And Joe Rogan is number 2. I don't know who Rotten Mango is, but there's a lot of different things in here that I don't know. Some of them are not news related. Some of them are entertainment. Some of them are gaming. But what's really interesting that I found out as they just released this, Midas Touch, that's one of the ones who are left-leaning. You guys can go through this. Sean Ryan, Tucker Carlson, of course, Pat McAfee in sports, Club Shay Shay, Megyn Kelly. The fact that I have the honor of being mentioned with these people is just fantastic to me. And by the way, people like Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson talk about other things besides just the current news. And they've done quite well. Patrick Bet David, 19. So I show up on this Timcast. You guys know who Timcast is. So these are the top 100 podcasts, news or otherwise, in the country. And what's interesting is, I like some of these people. Some of them I've heard of, some I haven't. But this week, there's Trish Reagan. I like her stuff. I cannot believe when this came out, we came out at number 63. We dropped a couple of slots from last week. But we beat Benny Johnson. I am absolutely stunned. I've been doing this for a little over a year. 1 year. March 18th was the first show for Trump. March 18th. Wasn't doing any news, was doing football before that. And so in a year, because of you, only because of you, we are now in the top 100 of podcasts across the country of all genres combined. And for the first time ever with YouTube's rankings here, we even beat Benny Johnson. And some of these people have been in news and media for quite some time. So that tells me things are working. And because things are working, we're going to continue doing what we think is going to work, and obviously with your input. So don't be upset if we try something else, if we talk about finance, or if I review certain things on CNBC, because I think that the growth of this community depends upon having knowledge all around as to what President Trump's policies and strategies are doing to improve the life of Americans. And I think that's important. And I'm sick and tired of the Democrat stuff. I'll do the Democrats. I'm going to make some changes on this channel. You're going to see real soon, but I'll have a segment in regards to what the Democrats are doing. But we're going to do stuff that positive stuff that really makes a difference in Americans' lives. So I'm on a tight time frame here because of Colonel McGregor coming on at 2:00. So let me get right to Judge Jeanine swearing in. Let me just make sure I'm doing something different now, so I have to make sure that my schedule is accordingly, and see what they say. Yeah, all right, so I've got to jump right here and do the Trump red knives. All right, everybody, you guys have known it. You've seen it for quite some time. This is the Trump red knives. Folks, Trump is back in office. He's doing very well, and it's only going to get better from here. As a celebration, Patriot Addict is sending these free Trump red knives to anybody in the fanfare audience that wants to get one. All you've got to do is click the QR code right there, or go to berryknife.com. As I've showed you many times, and I've yet to cut myself, this is a very sharp knife. It's heavy, it's large, it's pretty good size, as you can see. And I've showed you videos of B. Michael Nays, who goes ahead and he knows how to work the flippy thing over here to make it flip out assisted, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to cut myself. It's got a window breaker, and it also has a seat belt cutter if you get stuck in the car. So this is just Patriot Addict's way of saying thank you to the president and basically commemorating this moment in history. So if you'd like this knife for free that normally sells for $70, all you have to do is pay shipping. It's like $13.99, and you can get this knife delivered straight to your door. Just click the QR code right there or go to berryknife.com. That's it. QR code or berryknife.com. All right, so let's get into Judge Jeanine swearing in, and as of course, President Trump's questions that he takes from the media after he swears everybody in.
Bold and innovative policies like very few people even thought of. In 1990, Jeanine became the first female judge in Westchester County history. And following the year, and by the way, very distinguished, had an unbelievable, distinguished career. And in the following years, she presided over numerous complex criminal cases. The reason they were complex is that other judges were not able to understand them. They were called the complex cases. My sister had them too. They always used to give her the complex cases because other people didn't understand them, including high-stakes felony narcotics trials. Her outstanding judicial record earned her the honor of being named the #1 judge in 1990 by the Independent Fund for Modern Courts. That's nationwide. Outstanding judge. The following year, Judge Jeanine was elected Westchester County District Attorney, became the top prosecutor for a jurisdiction that included some of the largest suburbs in New York City, including Yonkers and White Plains. It's a big deal. As District Attorney, Jeanine tackled high-profile violent crime cases and established one of the nation's most successful cybercrime units to combat online child abuse. She was way ahead of a lot of people. They still aren't there. If you get right down, I mean, from what I hear, they're still not there in many cases back there where we come from. In addition to her stellar legal career, Jeanine also excelled in news media as you know, and she's become one of the most beloved political figures through her time on television, because she's been very, very successful at a thing called television. She got out of what she was doing, and frankly, she does them both great, but she's really, to me, she'll always be known as a great lawyer and a great prosecutor, which is what she's doing now. So Jeanine Pirro, I have no doubt, will be an exceptional U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, one of the truly most important positions in our country, of any position, where she will restore public safety in our nation's capital, break up vicious street gangs and criminal networks, and ensure equal justice under the law. You'll see very, very big improvements in the D.C. area, that I can promise you. So I want to congratulate Jeanine. I want to congratulate you and Christine and your whole family on this undertaking. And as you know, Pam Bondi is doing an unbelievable job as our real leader in the fight against crime. And Pam heard about this, and Pam said, I'll have to find time for Jeanine. She doesn't have time to do this, but for Jeanine she did, and she's going to be doing the swearing in. So Pam, thank you very much for the great job you're doing and for swearing in our friend, Justice Jeanine. Good. Thank you. Come on up.
Oh, you're there. There we go. I do solemnly swear
I, Jeanine Pirro, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I take this obligation freely,
and that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
of
the office upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam Attorney General, both my friends for many years. Long ago, I went to law school to study about justice, and to bring justice to victims of violent crimes, women, children, and the elderly. I fought to give them a voice in a system that was both blind and deaf to their concerns. I dedicated my heart and soul to making sure that there was a system that responded to them. My profile and my prosecutorial successes garnered public attention, and my life took unexpected turns. Through all of this, President Trump, you have remained as steadfast as one of my earliest supporters and champions. You never wavered. You were always steadfast, trustworthy, and confident. Today, Mr. President, you bring me back to my roots. And it is a larger arena, but no less an arena where we need justice, where we need to send a message that justice will be honored in the District of Columbia. And just last week, here in our nation's capital, two people on the brink of beginning their life had hopes and dreams that were never realized because a cold-blooded murderer made a decision to shoot them down on the streets on a cold, rainy night in our nation's capital. This will not go without just accounting. My voice should be heard loud and clear. No more tolerance of hatred, no more mercy for criminals. Violence will be addressed directly with the appropriate punishment. And this city will again become a shining city on a hill in an America that President Trump has promised to make great again and will make safe again. Mr. President, America thanks you, and I thank you.
Any questions?
Oh, boy.
Anything for Jeanine?
You just want to talk to him. I get it.
She's going to be fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's no question, because there's no doubt. We have no doubt you're going to be fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, on Russia. Mr. President, on Russia. On Russia, Mr. President.
Please.
Do you believe the Russians are being disrespectful when they say that your criticisms of Putin are simply an emotional response? And do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently, but it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We have Mr. Witkoff is here, who's doing a phenomenal job, is dealing with them very strongly right now. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I can say this, that I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now, where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that. Very, very disappointed. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you've called for an end to the Gaza war. Given the growing humanitarian crisis and the decision of Prime Minister Netanyahu to extend the military operation, do you have any frustration with his handling of the situation of the war?
No, we're dealing with the whole situation in Gaza. We're getting food to the people of Gaza. It's been a very nasty situation, very nasty fight. October 7th was a very nasty day, the worst that I think I've ever seen. It was a horrible day, and people aren't going to forget that either. So we'll see how that all works out. And Steve, would you want to say a couple of words about Gaza, because you just have some information? Steve Witkoff, do you want to come up for a second? You might give them a little bit of information as to what's happening with Gaza and also Israel. We're having some very good talks with Iran. We'll find out whether that means anything, but we're having good talks.
Congratulations. Well, hi everybody. I think that we are on the precipice of sending out a new term sheet that hopefully will be delivered later on today. The president is going to review it. and I have some very good feelings about getting to a long-term resolution, temporary ceasefire, and a long-term resolution, a peaceful resolution of that conflict.
Mr. President, you said
Having
yesterday,
to do with Iran. We're having very good talks with
Mr. President, you said yesterday that Putin is playing with fire. What will be the consequences for Russia if Russia continues?
Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly, but the words speak pretty loud. We're not happy about that situation. I think we're doing very well with Iran. I think we're doing very well with Gaza. But we are doing very well with Iran, and I think we're going to see something very sensible, because there are only two outcomes. You know what the two outcomes is: a smart outcome and there's a violent outcome, and I don't think anybody wants to see the second. But I think we've made a lot of progress, and we'll see. You know, they still have to agree to the final stages of a document, but I think you could be very well surprised what happens there, and it'll be a great thing for them. They could have a great country into the future. Yeah.
Mr. President, Elon Musk in a television interview criticized the one big, beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that undercut the DOGE efforts. So what's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes, so we can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was, we have no Democrats. You know, if it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. You know, if that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill, but the beautiful is because of all of the things we have. The biggest thing being, I would say, the level of tax cutting that we're going to be doing. We're going to make people really be able to, we'll have the lowest tax rate we've ever had in the history of our country, and tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle income people of our country, low and middle income people of our country. So we're going to see what happens, because the Senate, as you know, is negotiating with us, and they have to then go back to the House, and, you know, it's got a way to go. But I have to say, Speaker Johnson and Thune have done an incredible job. John Thune has done a fantastic job, and they're working together with me and others. And I think we have an amazing, if we pull this off, remember, we have 0 Democrat votes because they're bad people. There's something wrong with them. You know, they'll let people pour into our country. Single biggest problem is we had 21 million people pour into our country, probably higher than that. And they're people that weren't supposed to be here. And many of those people are bad. Murderers, drug dealers, the mentally insane. They were closing mental institutions all over the world, not South America, all over the world. They're coming into our country, and we're getting them out. And we're having a hard time because some judges aren't making it very easy for us, and it's tough enough. They approved that. They allowed that to happen to our country. We don't have one Democrat vote. And if I were a Democrat, I'd be voting for this bill, and I'd get elected to any position I want as a Democrat. They're crazy. They're voting for a 65% tax increase, and they're only doing it for hatred. They're not doing it for any reason. They know it's terrible. Terrible politics, in my opinion. But so we have no Democrat votes. That means we have to get almost all Republican votes. And I think we're very close to doing that. I think it'll be very successful. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country, and because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till Jeanine. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. You know, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me, he said, we have the hottest country in the world right now. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation. You set a number. And if you go down, if I set a number at a ridiculous high number, and I go down a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever, and they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, they were having great difficulty because we were basically going cold turkey with China. We were doing no business because of the tariff, because it was so high. But I knew that. But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. Go ahead. To me, that's the nastiest question. Wait a minute. Wait. Go ahead, please.
President Zelensky says he's ready to sit down with you and Vladimir Putin in Geneva, and it sounds like General Kellogg is working on preparations for that. Are you planning to sit down with the two of them?
Well, I will if it's necessary. It takes. We have to. I think I'm at this point. I wish it would have been that way a couple of months ago. But at this point, we're working on President Putin, and we'll see where we are. I think we're doing fine, but we'll see. I don't like what's happening. That's one thing I'll say. I don't like when I see rockets being shot into cities. That's no good. We're not going to allow it.
You've always said that the war never would have started if you were
would have never happened, and it didn't happen. He doesn't seem willing
to do anything that you want him to do. Do you still believe that he wouldn't have launched the war?
No. We would have never had a war. We would have never had a war. If I were president, if the election weren't rigged, you wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had October 7th. That would have never happened because Iran was stone cold broke. They didn't have any money to give to Hamas or Hezbollah. You wouldn't have had that Afghanistan most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. You wouldn't have had any of it. You wouldn't have had inflation because energy costs. Look what happened. I brought inflation down to practically zero. And all of the groceries and all of the eggs and all of the things that you've been hearing about, they're back down. They're way down from where they were. I did something in 4 months that nobody's seen. And I have to say, in 4 months, and I said it before, and everyone's talking about it all over the world, we've got the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. We're the only country anybody's even talking about. All right, please go ahead.
What stopped you from imposing new sanctions on Russia?
Only the fact that if I think I'm close to getting a deal, I don't want to screw it up by doing that. And let me tell you, I'm a lot tougher than the people you're talking about. But you have to know when to use that. If I think it's going to hurt a deal, this isn't my war. This is Biden's war, Zelensky's war, and Putin's war. This isn't Trump's war. I'm only here for one thing, to see if I can end it, to save 5,000 lives a week and a lot of money. The money being much less important, because I made that money. I went to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE, and we brought back $5.1 trillion. So I made that money in about 2 hours, the money we were talking about, but it's still think of it, $300 billion we've spent with no checks, no balances. They just send cash. You can imagine what's happened to that money. I never saw anything like it in my life, but I'm more interested because I picked up $5.1 trillion and, by the way, got a beautiful, big, magnificent, free airplane for the United States Air Force, okay? Very proud of that, too. They tried to say, oh, it's Trump's airplane. Oh, yeah, sure. It's too big. It's too big, much too big.
When can we expect that to be the Air Force One?
Well, it's here already.
Yeah.
It's in the country. It's being refitted for military standard.
How much will it cost?
All right, so I have to break because last time I pushed Colonel McGregor because Trump was speaking then too. But luckily, this time it's not live. President Trump is speaking and we have it taped. So I had it pre-recorded. So I'm going to go to my interview with Colonel McGregor, and then we'll play the rest of that Trump press conference. Obviously, these people are complete idiots, so you know what's in store, and it doesn't get any better from there. So I'm going to take a break, make sure that Colonel McGregor is all set, and then we're going to come back in and do the interview.
Back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
All right, everybody, I got a treat for you. We're going to get some inside military knowledge, as much as somebody can give you inside military knowledge. I've got Colonel Douglas McGregor ready to come on. He's U.S. Army Colonel, retired combat veteran. He was an advisor to the Secretary of Defense, an author, consultant. You see him on Fox, military TV analyst, chairman of advisory board, and probably a long laundry list of accomplishments that he has been able to put together. Colonel McGregor, thank you for coming back after being bumped last time. I sincerely apologize, and thank you for being here again today. How are you?
Oh, fine. No problem. Happy to be with you.
All right. So, I don't know if you had a chance to see that press conference or that impromptu press conference that President Trump was just doing, but they came after him again about the Ukraine-Russia stuff, as they always do. And he mentioned that something is going to break, or should break, or he should know something in 2 weeks. What specifically is he talking about? What's supposed to happen in 2 weeks?
I assume he's talking about something in 2 weeks in connection with Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, it was very interesting how he mentioned that. So, in terms of the war with Ukraine and Russia, who's winning, or is anybody winning?
Well, the war was won a long time ago by the Russians. The Russians have deliberately slowed their advance because they were hoping for a negotiated end to the conflict. Mm-hmm. They were hoping that President Trump, who came into office saying very different things from what he's saying right now, would potentially recognize the criticality of America intervening to stop aiding the regime in Kiev so that the fighting would stop, because that's the only way the fighting will stop. Mm-hmm. And the Russians said, look, we're waiting. We want to do business with you. We're happy to have you. Tell us what you can do. Well, now President Trump has turned around and taken a very antagonistic position against Moscow. He was stopped on the tarmac, I guess, up at Morristown, New Jersey, and talked about apparently his perception that he had a good relationship with President Trump. He doesn't understand, and Trump is killing people, all sort of nonsense. You know, Barry, international relations are not decided by personal relationships. Mm-hmm. That's all nonsense. International relations are driven by interests. Now, historically, we have no vital strategic interest of any kind in eastern Ukraine. I would go one step further and say we have no strategic interest in Ukraine whatsoever. Russia does. Ukraine is as important to Russia as Mexico is to us.
Is that because of proximity?
Well, that's a big part of it, yeah, Barry. They're next door, huh? And the two peoples have lived together for easily 1,000+ years. It's not as though they don't know each other. There are a lot of complex issues at play. Ukraine is a very complex place. It's not a nation as we normally think of it. It never has been. It's always been a region. Parts of the region were Russified, parts of the region were not. Large parts of the region were under Polish, Lithuanian governance and administration. We could go on and on and on. This is not a simple issue that you solve in an afternoon and draw a line and say, all right, now everybody's satisfied. I don't think President Trump understands that because he doesn't study anything. He doesn't read anything. And he depends on what people in his inner circle tell him.
Okay.
He trusts. They're friends of his, his golfing partners, real estate moguls. Well, that's fine, but that's not serious study and preparation for these very complex events overseas, whether it's in the Middle East or Eastern Europe or the South China Sea or Northeast Asia. It's very different from what he's accustomed to. And he seems to have assumed that he had a quote-unquote deal when there was never any deal. You don't make deals in the space of a few days or a few nights. In fact, I was listening to the statements he made about trillions of dollars he's bringing back. Well, that's very misleading stuff. People made agreements while he was there and said that they would do certain things. And most important to him right now and to the United States is that the Emirates and the Saudis do not pull their cash out of the United States.
Right.
If they pull their cash out of the United States banking system, we go under. That's how serious it is right now. Our bond market is in serious trouble. Japan has fallen apart. We're on the road to Japan, to default and catastrophe, frankly. So I think he conveys an impression that sounds great to his supporters. It's more complex than he's letting on. He also did a lot of other things in the Middle East because he's trying to hold together the Turkish-Israeli cooperative arrangement for joint hegemony over the region. That's getting tougher with each passing day because the Israelis want to increase their control over neighboring states. The Turks don't like it. He met with the former deputy head of ISIS, who is, in my judgment, a criminal, shook his hand and said he's an attractive young man. Great guy. Because this man reports to Erdogan in Turkey. He wants to hold this together. All of this is very fragile. And in Eastern Europe, there's only one way to end the war immediately, and that is for us to end our support for Zelensky. Stop. Period. End of discussion.
When you say end the support, if you had his ear right now, what would you be telling him in terms of end the support? Is it the money? Are we still sending the money? I had talked to Mr. Manus a couple weeks ago, and he said we're still funding them. We're also still sending weapons. Is all of that still happening? And who is the person is President Trump approving that continued support?
President Trump is the chief executive of the United States. He controls foreign and defense policy. He can stop pretty much anything he wants to. Now, what he's allowed is for a $60 billion bill that covers, support for the Ukrainian government that would otherwise collapse because we're paying for the Ukrainian government and we're paying for all of their equipment. And remember, we estimate that somewhere between a third and half of the money and the equipment that we've provided to them has been stolen, has been sold on the black market. We find Javelin missiles right now, systems that we provided to the Ukrainians, showing up in the drug cartels in Mexico and Central America. It's a catastrophe. This is the most corrupt country in the world that we've been supporting, all with the goal of harming Russia. Well, that certainly has worked. Russia's gross domestic product is up. Russia's economy is booming, and it now has the most powerful ground force in the world. So, if we set out to harm Russia, that's been a miserable failure. I don't think he has anybody integrate this for him in a way that makes sense. Because when you look at it from this vantage point, we want nothing to do with this war in Ukraine. We need to get out of it completely. At that point.
So how do you do that? If you're talking to President Trump, what would be your advice to get out of Ukraine? Just cold turkey? Just pull the Band-Aid off and just withdraw support, everything right away?
You inform all of your NATO allies that you are withdrawing all U.S. personnel, military, intelligence, civilian, whatever they are, immediately, that you're pulling them out as soon as possible. And that could be done within a few days. And that you are suspending all further aid to Ukraine. Now, you may have a fight on the Hill because, remember, an awful lot of people on the Hill have benefited enormously financially from all this aid. I mean, this cash doesn't just disappear in Ukraine. It finds its way back here to the United States in the various reelection funds and the pockets of big donors and quote-unquote shareholders, right?
Right.
So he's going to have a fight on his hand. But the bottom line is he's the president of the United States. If he issues an executive order and says, I'm suspending it and I'm going to get everybody out, it's going to take an act of God to stop President Trump from doing that. So he can do it. It's up to him.
Okay, so why do you think he hasn't done that yet? Just because of the pressure for people in his periphery?
Well, some of the same people that won a war in the Middle East with Iran are the same people that won a war in Ukraine against Russia. So he's dealing with this, what I call uniparty. We talk about Republicans and Democrats. It's a lot of nonsense.
Right.
These people are all in the same party together. They're all there for the same purpose. They're prostituting themselves for money and to increase their bank accounts. I don't see very many really, what should I say, virtuous people on the Hill these days.
Right.
And he knows that. So that's part of the problem. But again, he's got to act. Remember, he was president for 4 years, and he had plenty of opportunities to end our position in Afghanistan. He could have stopped it in 2017, which he wanted to do. And he could have directed the Joint Chiefs to come up with a plan that systematically ended our commitment in Afghanistan and withdrew our forces. Well, he didn't do it. And then finally, just before he left office, he turned and said, I want to get out. And then when he ran into resistance on the Hill and in the Pentagon, he said, oh, well, maybe I can't do this. I can't explain why he does not carry through on the things that he says he's going to do.
So it sounds like you soured on President Trump, and maybe it's not souring. Let me just ask you, when did you develop this opinion that he's doing things the wrong way?
Well, I like him. I supported him. I voted for him. But Barry, I didn't think there was much alternative, Frank. There was no reason to support Biden in the crowd that he wanted to bring in. That was more destruction for the United States. So that was an easy choice. But he said a number of things when he was running, and I believed him. He said he didn't want any more wars. He wanted to end the overseas commitments and wars. He wanted to focus on what was important here at home. He wanted to rebuild prosperity. He even talked about cutting spending when he was running. Now he's in office, and what's he done? The opposite. And no matter how much I may like him personally, if he's not going to do what he said he was going to do once he's elected, I'm going to say that's wrong. I'm sorry, Mr. President, I can't support you.
Do you think that because we're only like 120 days in or so, that he's the strategy at this point is to deal with things that are more of a priority, or do you think it's already a lost cause as far as you're concerned?
The first 6 months to a year those are the critical times in a presidential term. All the most important things happen in the first 6 months to a year. If you don't act decisively, if you do not have a strategy, and you do not pursue it, you're going to fail miserably because you're going to lose whatever momentum you had after the election by the end of the year. Now, I think he's already lost a lot of momentum. I mean, $1 trillion defense bill, Barry? How many trillions does this add to the debt? Do we need it? He's now.
You just asked the question. Do we? Do we?
No.
Do we not need the Golden Dome? The Golden Dome either?
The Golden Dome is a money pit.
Okay.
The laws of physics have not changed. You can't break the laws of fractal mathematics and do everything the so-called Golden Dome is promising. This is back to the Star Wars illusion. And that myth cost us $1 trillion. This is the worst possible thing he could do. What he needs to focus on is, number one, what is in the interest of the American people? We need a 50% cut in defense.
Wow.
We're about to go into a serious financial crisis, Barry. And Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, they're going to be on the table. What was it that Elon Musk discovered? There were 31 million people drawing Social Security who didn't exist.
Right.
Hello? That's where
I like hearing alternative points of view and perspective. I've never been someone who just goes along with the flow, and everything that you're saying is completely different than what people watching my videos are used to hearing. But I try to tie it up, bring it back to it, is I understand your concerns. Your concerns are valid and warranted. But I haven't heard yet from you, what's the alternative? One time you said you didn't want to vote for the alternative because it would have been destruction of America. At this point, in his presidency, with 3+ years left to go, what is it that we can address, or you can address the people you know? I'm sure you know many people in the Department of Defense. What can you do to get things turned around?
Well, I would say 3 things. First and foremost, he's got to cut spending. If he doesn't cut spending, we are going to go over the cliff. We're going to look like Japan and Greece. You're going to have worse than a deep recession. You could actually have a depression in this country. So get with the program. That's your number one priority. You have to deal with this out of control spending.
Okay.
Stop listening to these people that keep trying to insist that the Chinese and the Iranians and the Russians and God knows who else are all interested in attacking us. They are not. Okay, let's stop that nonsense. That's not true. This is drummed up to justify this bloated defense spending. And then when you look at the $1 trillion they want to spend on defense and you look at where the money goes, it doesn't build much military capability. You're not adding very much. Now they have finally begun to look at the numbers of generals. We've averaged 42, 43 4-stars. Okay, during World War II, we had 7.
Okay.
And we had 6+ million men in the Army, another 2 or 3 million in the Air Force and the Navy and the Marines. And we managed to do reasonably well during the Second World War. Today, we have 1.1 million people in the armed forces, and we have 38 4-stars. We need a new strategy. The strategy that we've been following is just an extension of the old Cold War, and it's imperial. It's, we maintain these 850 bases worldwide. To do what? We can't refight World War II, and we don't want to. So you need a fundamental change in strategy for a new military establishment, a new way forward. So you got to cut spending, you got to address that, and then finally, you need a strategy to deal with the criminality and the illegal aliens in the country. What's the strategy? Well, we have Tom Homan, and I like Tom Homan. I know him. He's a nice guy. Well, we're getting those bad guys. The drug trafficking, the human trafficking continues through the border. It goes through the legal crossing sites. Why? Because the drug cartels can pay all the police officers and customs officers $30,000 a month on top of their regular salaries to look the other way. It's not over. What's the strategy for removing all of these people? Well, we have deported people before. We deported 9 million Mexicans in 1929 under Hoover. We deported another 3.5 million Mexicans under FDR and another 2.1 million under Harry Truman. How did we do that? There's an organization, Barry, it's called the U.S. Army. That's how we did it. Wait.
So are you saying, because I think what it sounds like you're saying is, he said the U.S. Army. Are you advocating for President Trump to suspend habeas and actually get it done?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Lincoln did that in 1861 before the Civil War actually broke out in order to stop supplies and men from moving south from the north. This is an emergency situation. I would go so far as to suggest he should invoke the Insurrection Act. He's got to get control of these borders. We have the United States Coast Guard sailing around the Persian Gulf and the South China Sea. Why? The last time I looked, the United States Coast Guard belonged in home waters.
Right.
What are we doing with the Coast Guard, for God's sakes? I mean, this thing is an abortion. We need a strategy. We need leadership. We need decisiveness. Those 3 things that I pointed out. Number 1, cut spending. You got to suck it up and tell the American people the truth. We've got to cut spending. Okay, and there are a lot of different things that you can do. It's going to be painful, let's face it, but we have to do it. Secondly, we have to address this military mess overseas, this grossly inflated budget, and this overstretched military establishment. It doesn't work. We need a new strategy. We need to address that. We need to end these interventions. And then finally, we got to deal decisively with the border and criminality, because the criminality inside the United States is not separable. In other words, you can't separate it from the border and illegal immigration. I'm not saying every illegal immigrant is a criminal. That's not my point. But they broke laws when they got in here. And keep something else in mind. If you do nothing about this, and we do go into the very severe recession and depression that I think is coming, what's it going to be like for the American that looks down the road and sees all these people living in free housing, receiving free food and free medical care, and he or she who's working to provide food for her children or his children, his family, can't do it?
You see,
That's why Hoover and FDR and Truman moved the Mexicans out that were in the United States. Large numbers of them were also illegal.
I think it's weird, because I think I knew where you were headed with this, and a lot of people may be reacting, going, "Oh, he's so negative about Trump," but if you dig into what you've just said, most of what you just said, I can agree with you, which may shock some people. I do think we're going to be spending too much money. I do think we're looking at enemies who aren't really enemies. And I definitely, and I've been, one who on this channel has been advocating to pull the trigger and go with the suspending habeas. I think many people agree with that. But now they're wondering, and we're basically in the bleachers trying to figure out what the heck is going to happen. Whose call is that? Obviously, it's his call to make, but what will happen if he were to do those three things that you just said? How devastating would it be politically if he did cut spending in the military, and if he did suspend habeas, and he did recognize that China and Iran weren't the monsters under the bed?
Well, just before we leave China very briefly, people say to me all the time, well, what about these Chinese who are in this country, who are in our laboratories, in our universities? Well, get them out. They shouldn't be there. If you don't like the Chinese that are operating in your country, then control your borders. Do we really need immigration at this point? I don't think so.
No.
We're overwhelmed. We should be concerned first and foremost about the American people. It's not enough if you become president to say, I love America and I'm going to do all these things. You have to do it. You have to have a plan. You have to have a strategy. Who are the people appointed to execute these tasks? Who are they? What have they been told to do? What are their legal authorities? Has he gone to the Senate and the House, to the Congress, and said, I must have the following? If I don't get the following, our country is at severe risk. We're not at risk of being invaded by Russia or China or attacked. Our problems are here, inside our country. We need to deal with them.
He has said that, the enemy from within, and I think a lot of it is governmentalist. So you have a lot of knowledge from a military perspective that makes a lot of sense. It may turn some people off because you're disagreeing with him. But what I'm saying to people watching is understand, many of you have felt the same way about Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino. I hear all the echoes about that. Do something. It sounds like that's what you're saying to everybody right now. He needs to do something. Is that what you're saying?
He also has, with maybe the exception of RFK Jr. and, Tulsi Gabbard, I think the cabinet's unqualified. The people he's picked are not qualified to do the jobs. He can't do business this way. You have to have people that know something about the institutions they've been asked to lead. They have to have some real experience. We're in a lot of trouble, Barry. And liking Trump isn't going to get us anywhere. I like him. That's not the issue. And I have always liked many of the things that he says. But it's time to get down to business. What are we really doing? What is really changing? And my point is, not much. In fact, if you look at the foreign and defense policy thing, it's an extension of the Biden crowd. What are we doing about the criminality? We hear about it all the time. Well, you can't do that. Oh, I have all these lawyers. You, Mr. Trump, are the president of the United States. You are the commander-in-chief and the chief executive. You have the power to do these things, but he better get started because, as I said, after a year, all the opposition to him hardens and becomes rock hard. If he's going to get these things done, he better start immediately. I don't see it happening. Instead, I see a big, beautiful bill that's guaranteed to sink us. And interventions and operations overseas that if they break into war will destroy us economically.
Well, even Elon, who's been working on Doge, has come out publicly and said he doesn't like he doesn't like the bill either. So there's a lot of people who agree with you. Obviously, some people would feel otherwise. I have one last question for you. If China and Iran and neither Russia aren't our enemies, who would you be looking out for at this point?
I would absolutely, positively focus on Mexico and the Caribbean basin. That's
Really?
number one. You've got to get control of our borders, and you're going to have to take harsh measures to deal with the drug problem in this country. How many hundreds of thousands of Americans are killed every year as a result of fentanyl and other drugs? They're not being killed by Russians or Chinese, certainly not by Iranians. That's absolute nonsense. The Iranians don't give a damn about us. The Chinese want to do business with us. So do the Russians. Okay, fine. Figure out how you're going to do business with them and get the best deal you can. That's fine. We expect that. But stop treating all these people as the enemy, because they're not. Nobody in Asia is interested in going to war, as my friends in Asia tell me, except the Americans who talk about it all the time. It's just crazy. We've got to focus here at home. If we don't focus on the problems here at home and the criminality that we're discussing and the open borders, and those borders are not closed, they are only partially closed. That's the problem. It's half-assed. We need the whole enchilada. And if we don't deal with this, and these people are not systematically eventually rounded up and shipped out, and they have to go, I was glad to see finally somebody did something that I've been arguing for the last several years, which is you tell everybody that came here illegally, if you leave on your own, give us your name, and you haven't committed any crimes, you can take your property with you. You can go, and by the way, we'll put you on a list, and when the time is right and we can take you, we'll bring you back.
Yeah.
That's totally legitimate. But that's not really happening at this point. I'm afraid that President Trump is not being taken seriously because he said too much for too long, overseas and at home, all of which sounded great, but has not happened.
So you're looking for in the next, you said 6 months before the year is up, that something has to happen, but you're not confident that it will at this point.
No, I mean you're the one that brought up the people in the FBI and the Justice Department, and I almost fell out of my chair when I listened to the two of them say, "Well, obviously Epstein committed suicide." Sure, and I have tulips growing out of an orifice. This is all nonsense. Let's wake up, smell the coffee. Don't lie to us.
Well,
we know the truth.
That interview that you're referring to, during that interview, which is going to be something I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, he said, in 2 weeks, everything is 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we're going to let you know what we know. In 2 weeks, I think expired a couple days ago. And nothing else has happened. So, Colonel McGregor, I've got to jump. Thank you very much for a different perspective. I know some people here are like shocked, but you got to hear perspective from all sides if you want to grow and begin digging in and not just be a fanboy. So I thank you for your time. Hope to talk to you again real soon. Love it. Thank you very much.
God bless.
All right, everybody. I'm going to return to President Trump's swearing in of, what's her name? Judge Jeanine. We'll talk about this interview after we get back from the end of President Trump's press conference.
Oh, I don't know. Whatever it is, a hell of a lot less than building a new one. We're waiting too long from Boeing. Boeing has got to get its act together. Yeah.
Sir, on Nippon Steel, this arrangement that was just announced in the open share, is that an arrangement you would consider for TikTok as well?
Nothing to do with TikTok. Totally different kind of a deal. We'll have to get, to do it properly, we'll probably have to get China's approval. China's never easy. China's never easy, but I think we'll be able to save TikTok. I'd like to save TikTok. I mean, TikTok was very good to me. I won the young people by 37%. No Republicans ever won, and I won by 37%. And Charlie Kirk will tell you TikTok helped, but Charlie Kirk helped also. Oh, he just happens to be here. Look at him. He loves that we mentioned that name, right, Charlie? He's done great, and I appreciate all the help. But with young people, we won by 37%, Charlie, and you helped, but TikTok was amazing. And he was the first one. He said, get on TikTok. So I have a little bit of a warm spot. I know I shouldn't. They'll say quid pro quo, put him in jail for the rest of his life, quid pro quo. No, TikTok was very good to me. I won young people. I don't know if it was because of TikTok, but it was something happened. No Republican has ever won they call them young people. Young people, you can define it a lot of different ways, but I won every age group in young people. And it never happened, and won by 37%. That's a lot. Yeah.
Back on Iran, did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there in a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest. Yes, I did. Next question, please.
Sanctions.
I did, yeah.
If Senate Republicans want to push
It's not a warning. I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him?
I just said I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't think it's appropriate right now. Because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong, with inspections and no trust. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. So no trust. I want it very strong where we can go in with inspectors. We can take whatever we want. We can blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting killed. We can blow up a lab, but nobody's going to be in the lab, as opposed to everybody being in the lab and blowing it up, right? Two ways of doing it. Yeah, I told him this would be inappropriate to do right now because we're very close to a solution. Now, that could change at any moment. Could change with a phone call. But right now, I think they want to make a deal, and if we can make a deal, save a lot of lives.
When do you think a deal could happen on Iran?
On which?
A deal with Iran could happen.
I don't know. I think over the next couple of weeks, if it happens. Yeah.
And on the when could the administration resume the interviews for foreign students' visa? When do you think your administration could resume these interviews?
On what?
For the foreign student visa. Yesterday there was...
for the French visa?
For the French, but all the foreign students.
Oh, for the foreign visas? What are you referring? Foreign visas for what? Are you talking about for colleges? Okay, so you're off of Israel. Now you're talking about colleges, right?
Yes, now.
Okay. Well, we're going to see. Look, Harvard has been a disaster. They've taken $5 billion plus. $5 billion. Nobody knew that they were making this kind. If we didn't do this, we would have never found this out, Pam. They're taking $5 billion. And I'd rather see that money go to trade schools. And by the way, they're totally anti-Semitic at Harvard, as you know, and some other colleges, too, in all fairness to them. And it's been exposed, very exposed. And I think they're dealing very badly. Every time they fight, they lose another $250 million. Yesterday, we found another $100 million. And they have, they have a fund, an endowment, $52 billion. All right? They get a lot of that from the United States. And I think it's ridiculous. I think everyone's coming up to me saying, we love the idea of trade schools with that kind of money and money from others, but money from them. You can have the best trade schools anywhere in the world. You give them to Iowa, Indiana, lots of good states, well-run states, and you give them the money. They can only be used for trade schools, and they'll teach people how to build motors and cars and AI. The AI, we're building plants. We're building hundreds of billions of dollars worth of AI plants. Already started, many of them. We've never had a boom like we're having now. You're going to see it. There's never been anything like it. So we're up to about $14 trillion in investments. There's never been anything even close. You look at Biden, this guy, they had people leaving as opposed to investing. And they're doing it because of November 5th, and they're doing it because of the tariffs. The tariffs have been tremendous. I can promise you, and I have great respect for the people at the European Union, they wouldn't be over here today negotiating if I didn't put a 50% tariff on. The sad thing is now when I make a deal with them, it's something much more reasonable. They'll say, oh, he was chicken. That's so unbelievable. I usually have the opposite problem. They say you're too tough.
Mr. President, on Harvard, there were some Jewish students protesting on campus yesterday. They said they don't want you making these huge cuts, cutting off student visas to Harvard in their name, because they feel
Harvard has to show us
a target.
Okay, Harvard has to show us their lists. They have foreign students. About 31% of their students are foreign-based, almost 31%. We want to know where those students come. Are they troublemakers? What countries do they come? And we're not going to, if somebody is coming from a certain country and they're 100% fine, which I hope most of them are, but many of them won't be, you're going to see some very radical people. They're taking people from areas of the world that are very radicalized, and we don't want them making trouble in our country. So I saw yesterday that in the middle of the UK, there was a nice young man. He wants to go back to school at Harvard, and he looked good to me, but I want to check his pass. But we want to be able to see why, these countries aren't helping us. They're not investing in Harvard and all of we are. So why would 31%, why would a number so big? I think, number one, I think they should have a cap of maybe around 15%. Not 31%. We have people who want to go to Harvard and other schools. They can't get in because we have foreign students there. But I want to make sure that the foreign students are people that can love our country. We don't want to see shopping centers exploding. We don't want to see the kind of riots that you had. And I'll tell you what, many of those students didn't go anywhere. Many of those students were troublemakers caused by the radical left lunatics in this country. All right, one more question.
Mr. President,
go ahead, please.
Will you pardon the people who are accused of conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer?
I'm going to look at it. I will take a look at it. It's been brought to my attention. I did watch the trial. It looked to me like somewhat of a railroad job. I'll be honest with you. It looked to me like some people said some stupid things. They were drinking, and I think they said stupid things. But I'll take a look at that. And a lot of people are asking me that question from both sides, actually. A lot of people think they got railroaded. A lot of people think they got railroaded. And probably some people don't. One more. Go ahead.
How will the confrontation with Harvard end? We'll see.
I don't know. I don't know. Harvard's got to behave themselves. Harvard is treating our country with great disrespect, and all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. They've got to behave themselves. I'm looking out for the country and for Harvard. I want Harvard to do well. I want Harvard to be great again, probably, because how could it be great? How could it be great when you have Harvard announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to teach remedial mathematics, remedial, meaning they're going to teach low-grade mathematics, like 2 + 2 is 4. How did these people get into Harvard if they can't do basic mathematics? How did they do it? I mean, people with 1,600 in their boards don't get in, and they're letting people in, and they're bragging about how they're teaching them basic mathematics. Where did these people come from? So we have to look at the list, and Harvard has to understand the last thing I want to do is hurt them. They're hurting themselves. They're fighting. Columbia has been they were very, very bad what they've done. They're very anti-Semitic and lots of other things. But they're working with us on finding a solution. And, they're taking off that hot seat. But Harvard wants to fight. They want to show how smart they are, and they're getting their ass kicked. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so that was the swearing-in ceremony of Judge Jeanine Pirro, who's now going to be the U.S. Attorney for the Washington, D.C. We're knee-deep in the swamp, as you could say. She's going to be responsible. Hold on, let me just adjust something here. Yeah, she's going to be responsible for holding all these people accountable. Good luck to her. At least I know she's got some serious oomph behind her. She can actually get it done if they allow her to get it done. So before I go over this event, I'm going to go back and talk about Colonel Douglas McGregor, which I understand from Ashley and SV ruffled a lot of feathers. And I'm glad it ruffled a lot of feathers, because the last thing I want to do is to be a yes man and to just always just think the sky is blue and sunny and everything is going to be fine. You need to hear the opposing opposition and their perspective. And and I'm not talking about from people on MSNBC, I'm talking from people who actually, voted for Trump but are having concerns. You can disagree, but when I tried to get him to actually say what exactly you're having a problem with, he rattled off those 3 things that he said he has a problem with. 2 out of those 3, I actually agree with. I'm pretty sure some of you agree with. When he said we need to cut spending, we absolutely need to cut spending. The big beautiful bill, in my mind, what makes it palatable for me is it has some other things in it, even though the sting of not getting all the cuts is somewhat problematic. So I'm kind of, my perspective on that is get those things into law, give people no tips, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and a couple of the other things, and then take another bite at the apple and come back and lower more expenses. Cutting expenses is very hard. I still believe that they should be cut, but I was willing to, take the bad medicine and see the additional money that's being spent so that it can help some certain Americans. So, I was 60-40 on that, because I definitely want to see no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and all the Trump tax cuts codified. So I was able to take the medicine and hold my nose on that one. Number 2, the Golden Dome. I didn't have any military knowledge to the contrary, but I still think it's a good idea for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to employ a lot of people, and it's also going to protect us. Is it going to cost a lot of money? Yes. But then you have to sit back and go, well, what's the cost of not having it? And then you think to yourself at that point, American people, American society, or the cost of protecting American society. So I balance that. And number 3, I completely agree with, and I've been advocating, and many of you have been advocating, to go ahead and pull the trigger and suspend habeas. Go Andrew Jackson, go the whole 9 yards, push the chips all in, and get it done. So before you completely discount what he said, sit back and understand that many people, many people, are now frustrated with what has occurred, or rather, what hasn't occurred. You see, Pete Hegseth, everyone was ready, gung-ho, let's get it done, and now you've got people as far as Colonel McGregor who are saying he's unqualified, he can't do it. I'm not there. I'm like, chill, just pump the brakes, let's see what's happens. Kristi Noem, you're not doing it, and I guess you can tie her into the whole idea between suspend habeas. Pump your brakes, it's possible it's coming. I'm not convicting yet. Some people, like Colonel McGregor, have gone to conviction. I'm still looking, knowing the clock is ticking, and it's ticking, and it's ticking. He's 100% right on one thing he also said. 100% right. You got to get it done within the next 6 months. It has to happen. If it doesn't happen within the next 6 months, we're screwed. Some of you may not want to put that hood over your head, but we are screwed. Because what's going to happen is all these little limp-wristed Republicans that we already have are going to be going into campaign mode to get their own asses reelected, and some of them may differ. Let me check the wind on what people are thinking about Trump. So we got to do it while his currency is strong and while his approval rating is still on a climb. I don't know if you've noticed, I don't know if Colonel McGregor noticed, but today, President Trump's approval rating is as high as the day he was elected. So if he was going to do something, he needs to do it. This is it. You've talked. We've all sucked it in. We all wanted it. We all voted for it. And now you're up here again. Now would be the time to tell these judges to pound sand and shut it down. Just shut it down and go for it with the habeas, and also pull the money from Zelensky. Do it. You weathered You weathered that storm of people complaining. Now you got to do it. So ask yourself, as you're listening to people on the right complain, do they have a point? Does he have a point? It's like, is it more out of nervousness at this point? We all support President Trump. That's not going to change for me. If he had said he no longer supports President Trump, and that's why I asked him, so you support Trump? Because if he didn't, the button would have went boom, boom, bye. I'd have flushed him. He'd have been gone. But he said, yeah, I support President Trump. He just needs to. Okay, stop there. You support him, yes. Okay, so if you support Trump, what do you want to see happen? That's why I changed it pretty quickly once he said, I support President Trump. Right then, quit with the whining. What do we need to do? And so you're seeing what's happening. There's a growing amount of people who are absolutely pissed off because things have not happened the way they wanted to, or in the time frame that they expected that things would happen. Obviously, I said before, and I continue to feel this way, I don't give a crap about Epstein. I don't know what Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi and what's the other guy's name, Kash Patel, are doing. They've become caricatures at this point. When I was talking to Ashley a couple days ago, and we were talking about that 2-week ticker is about to be here. And I'm not the only one who's about to download that video with Maria Bartiromo, and when he said right then and there, yeah, you're going to see in 2 weeks. Well, bro, it's been 2 weeks. It's absolutely been 2 weeks. It's time. No more excuses. I think that's what the genesis of all this is, or the basis of this is no more flipping excuses. No more 2 weeks, we'll find out. Because when it gets to 2 weeks, you don't do crap, people get pissed off. Like Colonel McGregor. Like some of you. There's only so much we can take. Do something. And I think that's what we're seeing is the overall clamor is myself, you, other people, Kyle Seraphin, that people are complaining about. Oh, by the way, did you notice what Julie Kelly said on Steve Bannon's show today? The same person who's been pushing and pushing said today on Steve Bannon's show, the Epstein list is irrelevant. Oh my God, have you been watching my show? Have you been watching this show when I kept telling people the Epstein list is irrelevant? Finally, she says it too? I think people are starting to realize it ain't that important, is it? No. What's important? Not that. Yes, we want to see these people brought to accountability, but at some point we have to start believing that this whole thing called the deep state may be deeper than any of us ever imagined. See, the one thing, Colonel McGregor, he was a colonel in the military, and a lot of us looking from the outside in, what we don't know is what's behind those curtains, what's behind those closed doors, and how deep is the rot. Well, we know they tried to kill him, but how much of these people, like Colonel McGregor said, you agree with that too? Many of you agree. There's a uniparty. So if you get past the gruff exterior and you listen to the things that the man said, there is probably more there that you agree with than you disagree with. It's the shock of hearing people actually say, I'm tired of this crap. He ain't doing what he said he was going to do. It ain't happening. All across the administration, he's not alone with that thinking. We're still supporters. He's still on the team. I voted for Trump because the alternative was devastation. Yes, okay. So the basis right now, what I'm seeing is we're a big family. We're a big giant family, the Fanfare family included, and we're all sitting around the Thanksgiving table. Actually, let's call it a Memorial Day barbecue. We're all sitting at the Memorial Day barbecue, and we're getting hot dogs and stuff, and we got our beers, and people over here are like, "Oh, I love Pam Bondi," and people over here are like, "Pam Bondi sucks," but we're all still at the same barbecue. Hopefully, it doesn't end up like a black barbecue, and anybody starts shooting. Sorry about that, but you know what I mean. We're still at the family barbecue. And at that family barbecue, people are talking over here and over here and over here. We're still together right now. Let's not divorce. Let's work on teaching people how to win. But in order for us to win, the coach and the main players got to do something. So I think I want you, what I took from that interview, because Ashley asked me, she goes, "Are you going to cut it?" And I'm like, no, I'm not going to cut it. Because he's saying a lot of stuff that I agree with. And I never want to be that person who doesn't want to listen what somebody else has to say and actually analyze what they're saying to me. There's been times when Robin, I'm like, "Oh my God, you don't make any sense about this. What am I going to do? Get up and walk out because she doesn't agree with me on something?" No, we're still here. We're 32 years later. And those of you who've been married for 30-something years understand there's a lot of times where you're like, "Can you shut up?" Hopefully she's not watching, because then she'd come in and show me about shutting up. And you know what that means. So in any event, listen to people who are on your side but may have different opinion. I would never bring in somebody from MSNBC because we don't have anything to talk about. Do you think men can become women? Yes. Zip, bye, you're done. I got nothing to talk to you. Are you okay with baby removal? That should be up until the date of birth? Yeah. Bye. Nothing to talk about. Are you on the Trump's team, but you're disillusioned, you're upset, you're disappointed? Yeah. Let's talk about that. We're all here together. And I want you guys to feel the same way. Some of you didn't like when I talked about real estate last night, but hopefully you're still here. Understand where we are in this country at this moment is not a good place. See, in order to make America great again, you got to go through the crap. I've rehabbed houses. Here's a quick analogy, and then I'm going to show you something from J.D. Vance. I got a quick analogy. That analogy is, have you ever, and going back to real estate, this isn't selling anything, but I just want to use this analogy. If you've never rehabbed a house, you wouldn't know this. Or if you never watch any of those flipping shows, which are BS, by the way, on television, you would know this. But you go in and go, "Man, this house looks like absolute..." Oh my, she must have heard me. She just walked in. Everybody house, you're getting ready to rehab it, and you walk in, this house looks like crap. It needs a new roof, needs a new kitchen, needs new flooring. The electrical system is old. It's not working. And then you got to go ahead and rehab that house piece by bit by bit by bit. You don't snap your fingers. You don't walk in and go, "Turn this into a beautiful house." Nope. You got to do it in stages. And you have to know what those stages are. The first and foremost thing is we need to rip this roof off before we do anything inside, because we don't want things to fall on, the new stuff. Rip off the roof, get the roof done. Okay, we got the roof done. Now we're going to go inside and we're going to do demo. And we're going to tear out all the stuff, the sink, the cabinets. We're going to tear all this stuff out. Then we're going to have the people come in and take all the stuff to the dump. And now we've got a cleared out house with nothing, not even the drywall, not even the studs. We're taking it down to the cement. Down here it's cement. And now we walk into this open facility that we now are going to rebuild, because everything in it was wormy, rotted, had, bugs, termites, and then we, bit by bit, replace and rebuild. We put in the new studs. We put in the new electricity. We put in the new drywall. We go through and we paint. We put the new cabinets in the kitchen. We get new appliances. We get all that stuff. And then after everything's done, you paint everything and you put in a new carpet or tile, and you sit back and go, before, after. And you look at these two pictures and go, I did this. I took this piece of crap and I turned it into this. And the value of this now is what means all the world. This is the difference. That gap in between is all you spent to get it to this, and then you make your profit. The moral of the story is, unless you rip out the cabinets and get rid of the termites, which you need to do with this government, you're never going to get to the finished product that you want to get to. You're never going to make America great again if you don't go through the process of ripping this stuff out. So that was my analogy in terms of where Trump is. And then every step of the way, just so you know, because I've been there. Now, some of you guys can probably understand it. Maybe if you built your own house, every step of the way, somebody's going to come out with a plan, and the plan's going to be, oh, we need to change this because this isn't going to work here. But the architect said we could put it, no, we need to do this. You guys ever seen, what's that movie Robin had me watch? I love it. When Cary Grant and his wife buy the house out in the woods, and it was Connecticut, and it was falling down, and the guy's trying to drill for water and make the well and things, and it was a money pit. Oh yeah, then they remade that movie into The Money Pit with what's that lady from Cheers and Tom Hanks, and nothing ever goes to plan. But when you're done, you can sit back and go, we got this. That's where we are right now. All of us are sitting inside of this house going, I want to change the color of that. I want to replace that chandelier. And until it happens, we're going to be frustrated. So I just, wanted to spend a little bit of time on that so you guys can think about it. I think it's good for us to hear alternative views. Everything isn't roses. And right now you've got a whole group, a whole family. We're pissed off. And the worst part about it is, and I asked him a couple times, just like Steve Bannon asked Julie Kelly, and just like this person will ask somebody, nobody, and I mean nobody, has an answer. So, okay, if all this is wrong, if all this sucks, and if Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi aren't doing anything, and we can't do, why? See, that's the question everybody needs to ask themselves. Why is none of this stuff being done? Why? What are we waiting for? Why? And I asked him 3 or 4 times during the interview. You heard me. Oh, well, then why isn't it happening? What was the answer? I don't know. And then right on to more bitching. See, that's the crux of things. Nobody at this point, nobody seems to have any idea what's going on. So that might be to Trump's credit. For so long, everything was being leaked, and now nobody knows anything. What the hell's going on? All of us, we're all sitting back going, what? Why aren't you guys doing anything? So we're all in the same boat. All of us are looking at this and going, something doesn't make any sense. Somebody needs to do something. I mean, seriously, somebody needs to do something. So it looks like tonight they just announced, okay, maybe this is the 2-week. Tonight, Brett Baier has said he'll have Kash Patel on. So we'll take that in tonight's show, and we'll see exactly if he comes out with any information. Don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath that he's going to all of a sudden tell everybody what's happening on Brett Baier's show. Because if he's telling people what's happening on Brett Baier's show, more than likely, it ain't happening. He ain't going to come on Brett Baier's show and go, oh yeah, so tomorrow we're going to arrest 5 people. Oh really? Nah, that ain't going to be it. So don't get your hopes up. That's another thing. All right. So let me just cover a couple of points that President Trump just made. He mentioned 2 weeks from now. Colonel McGregor had no idea. What's in 2 weeks? What the heck? I mean, he just dropped that. Hey, is something going to happen with Ukraine and Russia? Oh yeah, in about 2 weeks. Nobody knows what he's talking about. Why? Why are you waiting 2 weeks? We don't know. Democrats. The Democrats, there's a segment. I'm going to have to steal it. and that segment that is on Sky News. And on Sky News, there's a segment that they do on their show called Lefties Losing It. But since Sky News is going bankrupt, I'm probably going to steal that segment and do Lefties Losing It here, because that's all they're doing. So when he talked about Chuck Schumer and everybody else, he's absolutely right. They have no clue what's going on, and all they're doing is fighting. He spoke about Doge, and he kind of dodged the question. Hey, listen, Elon's kind of upset, and Elon's saying that he did all this work, and now it might be for nothing. What in the hell is going on? And President Trump kind of dodged it, which tells me there's something going on. What exactly happened that the Doge cuts are not being codified? You have to understand this, too. He's exposing people almost by the day. You know, some of you guys are hitting me up with all kinds of stuff. Tom Tillis wants to buck President Trump. Tommy Tuberville, now going to be running for Alabama, is going to probably, obviously has to give up his Senate seat. There are so many chess pieces on the board that are moving right now. We don't know everything. But what we do know, and what you can put in the bank, is that he better have it done by December. You got 6 months. Get it done. It is now May 28th by 11/28, which is 6 months from now, going into December. We better see some fireworks. Because don't go through the holiday season and come back into January with everybody getting ready to, do their re-election campaign. So put that on your computer or on your app and say you got to get it done in 6 months. He was taking those questions from the press, and of course they were nasty questions. And so, of course, this press, they're commies. They can tell you they're not, but they're communist. They want the destruction of America. He knows that. You know that. So we'll keep them into the lefties losing it category. Zelensky, sit down. And they're after him with, you keep saying that we would never have had this war. Well, if we were never going to have this war if you were president, what were you going to do then that you can't do now? That's a nasty question, but it's a pertinent question. What are you going to do? One of the things that Colonel McGregor said, which was very interesting, I asked him, who's going to win the war? It's already been won. It's over. What you're watching now is a movie. I have heard many people say that. It's long been over. At this point, Putin's just like, I can take you out anytime I want. I'm just being nice. So what are we waiting for? Everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody, you, me, them, even Putin. Like, what's going on? What are we waiting for, sir? You gonna give us the notice? So something's happening. I don't find Trump to be a stupid man whatsoever. I don't believe you think Trump is a stupid man. So the fact that there's so many people with so many questions at this point, you have to think something big is sitting right there getting ready to happen. Do I know what it is? I have no idea. But you can't possibly think that this man is so inept in so many areas. That's something that if you feel that, if Colonel McGregor feels like, quote, he's inept, I don't know if he called him inept, but if he thinks he doesn't know what he's doing, you're convicting on a level that none of us really wants to take that step. There's no way. I've seen him talk. I understand what he's talking about. I understand. I've read his books. He's being cagey, and there's something going on. I don't know what it is. And it's funny because nobody seems to have any clue. Even someone as advanced with military contacts as Colonel Menas and now Colonel McGregor. So I wanted you to hear the difference in those two people as well. Because these are people who have knowledge. They're in there. And they're not hearing anything. Think about that. People who have been 30, 35 years in the military. My brother's in West Point. Hey, Brian, yeah, what's going on? Oh, no, man. Are you just saying that? I mean, true conversation. You just saying that because you can't tell me? He goes, no, I'd tell you if I couldn't tell you. I'm like, okay, so what's going on? I have no idea. Let that sink in for a minute. 30-year veterans who must have their tentacles all around the place. Your FBI, your Department of Justice, my brother, people you know. What's going on? I have no idea. That in itself tells you something's going on. The fact that everybody in the circle that you could probably talk to and say, what in the hell is happening right now? And they're like, I have no idea. So there must be a very tight circle of people who know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. Because nobody has answered. Not Manus, not McGregor, not my brother. Nobody has answered, nothing's going to happen. They just don't, I just don't know. So just take that at heart. You know, you just heard an interview that you guys got all pissed off at, but I'm trying to just bring you around full circle so you can see, you know, what we were talking about. Two more things. The Whitmer pardon. How many times do you think that President Trump bluffs? I personally think he bluffs a lot. I think he likes to keep people off kilter. Let them try to figure out what's gonna happen next. We all have been saying it. Hey, I might look to pardon Gretchen Whitmer. What? Why would you pardon the guys who threatened Gretchen Whitmer? It was fake. They never threatened her. Seriously. Why does anybody care about that? Number one. Number two, why would you even bring that up? And then three, this I think is important, is the whole thing with Harvard, which I'll be covering tonight in detail in terms of that war. Because that, I think, is very significant. It's again, money laundering. And what I think is happening at this point, President Trump, through Doge and other entities, has found its way into the tunnels. That tunnel, sort of like the cartels, is where is this money going? And if they've got deep into these tunnels, and those tunnels lead to some of the people in government or in past government, that's huge. That's much bigger than everything else. And then everything that's happening with Epstein and, you know, him still being alive and under, you know, witness protect. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that? That's probably what you think as well. But anyway, I hope I tied that back into a nice big bow for you. Actually, has that video of Julie Kelly saying it. She's actually, it's because Kyle Seraphin put it out. Here. At first I thought this might have been AI, but I'm like, is this real? Here, let me see. Listen to this.
I also don't care about the Epstein information. I don't care about those files. I think it's irrelevant. I don't care about those files. I think it's irrelevant. No one is going to be charged. Everyone got away with it. No one is going to be charged. Everyone got away with it. And I would much rather dig into January 6th. Much rather dig into.
Like that. You've got to get
No. I don't know what's going on. This is turning into like crazy town at this point, isn't it? And now after all the things that do happen badly, then you get this that comes out, breaking news. I can't even keep score anymore. I don't even know what the hell is going on in these judges. A new judge just gave Doge the green light to access sensitive payment data in the Treasury Department. This might be Doge's biggest win yet, as the Treasury controls trillions of dollars in payments. The floodgates are open. This was at 2:50 p.m., so about 15 minutes ago. So it's like, if you said to me and put a gun to my head and said, tell me what judgments and what has been told that Trump can't do versus can do, and which ones he's ignored, it's all over the place. I mean, it's absolutely crazy at this point where things are headed. Oh, my goodness. Let me see what SB has put out. SB and Ashley both had sent me that together. Let's see what this dude is. Somebody, I'm just looking at some of the comments that came in from Colonel McGregor's interview. And then this one happened just about a half hour ago. A newcomer Mexican who re-entered the United States 9 times has been arrested for threatening to take out Trump. The newcomer, who has a lengthy rap sheet, said he would do in Trump at the next rally. Just another example as to why Democrats want these newcomers to stay so badly. They'll do the Democrats' dirty work. Crazy. Speaker Johnson on Doge. This stuff just keeps coming. Let's see this. Elon Musk and the entire Doge team have done incredible work exposing waste, fraud, and abuse across the federal government, from the insanity of USAID spending to finding over 12 million people on Social Security. Now, this came out at 11:30 this morning. The House is eager and ready to act on Doge's finding so we can deliver even more cuts to big government that President Trump wants and American people demand. All right, so this isn't part of the big, beautiful bill. I had just said to you, there's probably going to be follow-up cuts. McGregor doesn't know that. Many people probably didn't realize that. Let's get the big, beautiful bill done, and then let's keep cutting with additional stuff. Doesn't have to be in a reconciliation. We're going to do it over here, especially if it involves fraud. How much of it won't even need a bill? How much, if these court rulings, he can just start cutting. So if you can cut a whole bunch here, you're taking that off of the spending that the Democrats have been advocating for. We will do that in 2 ways. One, when the White House sends its rescissions package to the House, we will act quickly by passing legislation to codify the cuts. Imagine that. I was right. The House will use the appropriations process to swiftly implement Trump's 2026 budget. Again, there's a reason why I wanted to play and hear from Colonel McGregor. It is because it told me that even he didn't know what was coming. This was posted at 11:30 this morning. I asked him 2 questions that he hadn't even seen, which means he didn't know. Hey, what's Trump talking about in these 2 weeks? I don't know. Okay. Hey, what about all this spending? Oh, he's not doing it. Well, you don't know about this. I interviewed him at 2 p.m. So in the 2 hours before we spoke, he hadn't seen this, that it was going to be a part of the next bill. Maybe you haven't even seen it. See, that's how this crap works. In the meantime, we've been working around the clock as we prepared for those processes. Oh, it's been a plan. The House made sure to build on Doge's success with the one big, beautiful bill. Stephen Miller, I believe this is it. Stephen Miller has made an important point about the 2 efforts. Doge found savings in discretionary spending, such as funding agencies, while one big, beautiful bill secured over $1.6 trillion in savings in mandatory spending, such as Medicaid. Both are historic and take huge steps towards addressing our deficit. Interesting. Stephen Miller said, that Doge cuts are to discretionary spending, i.e. the federal bureaucracy. Under Senate budget rules, you cannot cut discretionary spending in a reconciliation bill. What I said? What did I tell you? It's not often that I do, pat myself, but what did I tell you? Even Colonel McGregor didn't know. I'm like, is there anything else happening? There's a reason why when you do an interviews, you start asking certain questions to find out, basically, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Well, they need to cut spending. And what did they do? I'm sitting here going, oh, man. Oh, I don't want to embarrass this guy. Hope he's not watching now. But, dude, you stepped into it. You stepped right into it. Again, this was posted at 11:45 p.m. last night. Here, I'll show you that. Let me show you that again. 11:45 p.m. last night. So you're coming on to an interview today, and you didn't know that part of the plan was to just put forward this information, these cuts, because you can't do it in a reconciliation process. I'm not in the military, I haven't been in government, none of that, but I even knew that when you're complaining about there hasn't been enough cuts, it couldn't go in that bill. How many of you knew as you heard him talking, or if you were complaining, thinking, oh my God, he didn't cut enough, did you think it was over? Now you know it's not. Now you know there is a process. Again, training people to know how to win is going to take some effort. You heard from a colonel in the United States Army for years who doesn't know the process. Now you guys can all go, oh, now I understand, Barry. Why didn't you just tell us that? Why didn't you tell? There's a problem. My phone was going off. Ashley and SV like, hey man, cut. I'm like, chill. Listen, there's stuff coming you guys don't know. Like, even they didn't know where I was headed with this. All right, so let's continue. So you cannot cut discretionary spending in a reconciliation bill. So DOGE cuts would have to be done through what is known as a rescissions package or an appropriations bill. The big, beautiful bill is not an annual budget bill and does not fund the Department of Government. It does not finance our agencies. Instead, it includes the single largest welfare reform in American history, along with the largest tax cut and reform in American history, and the most aggressive exploitation in American history, and the strongest border bill in American history, all while reducing the deficit. Checkmate. You see, when everyone's complaining, one of the things you have to know is when the inspectors come in to check the roof. You need to know what the next step is. And if you don't know where the next step is, you're going to look like a blithering idiot because it's like, oh, this isn't happening. You just don't know that it's happening. You got to read. So I encourage you guys, as you guys, get upset yourself and wondering what's happening, the stuff that bothers me, and I've told you, I don't care about Epstein anymore. I don't care what Kash Patel. I don't care what Dan are talking about because it doesn't affect me. Do I think a depression or a recession are coming out? Because I can see what President Trump is doing. In a minute, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut, and I'm going to bring on J.D. Vance, who's talking today at a Bitcoin conference. So what? Why would he be talking about Bitcoin? Well, GameStop just bought $500 million in Bitcoin. 500 million, $500 million in Bitcoin. What do they know that possibly people like Colonel McGregor don't know? Why would you be investing? So you're bringing all these people over here from, like he said, and they're putting trillions of dollars. Is that wrong? Or are people looking at this and going, this is where all the money's going to be? Again, you have to think. One other news thing, this is important as well. The DOJ attorney in California just notified officials that they are under investigation for allowing boys into girls' sports. Quote, we are launching a Title IX investigation into CIF and Jurupa Unified School Districts for allowing a boy to dominate on the track team and take first place in competitions. We are also getting involved in an ongoing lawsuit against the Riverside Unified School District for allowing a boy to displace a girl on a cross-country team. I hope they lose all their funding as soon as possible. More importantly, I hope they go to jail. Me personally, I hope they lose all their funding, and I hope you cannot perform in the other person's sport. But more importantly, I hope they lose their funding. Pull the money back. So that being said, I'll take some questions and talk to you guys at this point because things are getting crazy and people just aren't aren't understanding the entire process, and we're looking from afar. He just made some more news. Well, talk about this guy not sleeping. It is my great honor to nominate Emil Bove to serve as judge on the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit. Emil is a distinguished graduate of Georgetown, served as assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York for nearly a decade, where he was a co-chief of terrorism and international narcotics unit. Emil is smart, tough, and respected by everyone. He will end, quote, the weaponization of justice, restore the rule of law, and do anything else that is necessary to make America great again. Emil Bove will never let you down. So there are moves and counter moves happening. And it's too much for any one person, even a general or colonel, to look on the score sheet and go, okay, what's going on? So you just have to temper your thoughts. I ain't gonna try. I'm never gonna purposely try to upset you, except for the fact I want you to think. See, most people who do podcasts try to speak at you. I want to speak with you and give you information so you can form opinions. So that's where we are here. Mr. Bear, what's that say? Where'd that go? Mr. Bear, you're a master with your questions. Thank you. You spun that interview. The guy's never going to come back on here, because if he goes back in to check, he's going to realize I was setting him up. And I'm telling you, my phone was going off from SV and Ashley, like, hey man, people are pissed. Shh. Hold on. What I think needs to happen, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I think more and more people need to understand that not myself, not many of these, no, none of these other people walk on water. Only one man ever walked on water. Everybody else is fallible. Everybody else can make mistakes. But too many people don't like to show people making mistakes. And they take it as authority or expert. I'm like, well, obviously, you may know how to put a tank or something in the right place, but you don't know budgeting. You don't know what President Trump and his team are doing to make cuts, where they're going to make cuts, how they're going to make cuts. We all got to stay in our lane. We all stay right here. Everything. Have you ever put together a budget for a government? No. Then shut up. I didn't want to say that because I'm never going to be rude to people. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. All right. So with all that being said, President Trump needs to read everything. You should have said hell no to him. Exactly. Let's see here. What we got? You were doubting too until you saw Nick Sorter and Stephen M's post. Stephen M's post, just so you know, and I still have it here, what I tried to tell you. Man, I love how people say that. It was 11:46 last night. Why do you think it was sitting here? Why do you think it was sitting here waiting for me to show you? You think I was like, oh my God, is there some information I could do to counter this? Oh, that was a stupid comment. It's from 11:46 p.m. last night, and it was sitting here with Speaker Johnson. Speaker Johnson, what time was Speaker Johnson here? Speaker Johnson's post was 11:30 this morning, referencing the cuts from 11:45 last night. Don't play, man. Don't play. All right, so I'm going to play J.D. Vance's information. He did a great speech this morning on Bitcoin. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Bitcoin, gold, and you heard yesterday, Ron DeSantis is starting to make gold legal tender here in the state of Florida. A couple other states have already decided they're going to do so as well. So now might be a great time for you. A really good time, especially if people believe and listen to like people like Colonel McGregor. If you think the world is going to go to hell in a handbag, and if you feel like there's going to be a recession, well then this would be the time you would be buying gold and silver. Buy. We're in a very volatile time right now. There's plenty of financial uncertainty. Now is not the time to be speculative. And I'm also speaking from a personal perspective. I'm buying income-producing real estate, and I'm buying gold and silver. A lot of people don't know the difference between the economy and the stock market. And too many people listen to the news and social media. That'll get you in trouble. Let's face it. It's obvious that a lot of people have an agenda they're not telling you about. Right now, your best bet is stability. And that means you might need to build a hedge against global volatility. May I recommend gold and silver to you? Real gold and real silver. Not paper, not certificates. Actual gold and silver. What gold and silver can give you is absolute peace of mind. A stock is only as good as the company behind it. It's merely a piece of paper. One of the things I can tell you is that many people are finding out the hard way that some of their investments were built on quicksand. Gold will never be worth zero. Silver will never be worth zero. If you want to calm some of your fears, give my friends at Lear Capital a call today at 800-601-5430 or go to learberry.com. Just so you know, Lear Capital has over 27 years of experience, thousands of five-star reviews, and over $5 billion in trusted transactions. And Lear is the only gold company with a 24-hour risk-free purchase guarantee. You don't pay unless you're 100% satisfied. So go to learberry.com. If you want peace of mind, give my friends at Lear Capital a call at 800-601-5430. Or look down here below and go to learberry.com. And don't forget to ask about getting up to $15,000 in free gold or silver with a qualifying purchase. Don't wait. Do it now. Nobody knows what tomorrow holds. Be safe. All right, so I'm going to cut to J.D. Vance right now. Hold on. Let me do it. He's walking out here. All right. J.D. Vance.
Thank you. Thank you all. Well, first of all, I want to thank, please, thank you guys. Take your seats. And, the Secret Service is a little bit nervous because I told them these Bitcoin guys really like guns. But they really like the President and Vice President of the United States, too, so I think we're doing okay. So I first have to thank David Bailey, grateful for everything that you've done for the Bitcoin community. Thanks in particular for what you did for me and the president, helping us get from candidacy to the White House, because we've done, I think, a lot of good in the past 120 days, and I don't think we could have done it without David's support. I want to also thank the Winklevoss brothers, Tyler and Cameron. These guys are out here somewhere. Who, I got to say, Tyler and Cameron, I think really helped break the dam in Silicon Valley. Because if you remember, you go back to June or July of last year, it feels like forever ago. It's not even a year ago, where Silicon Valley, people would whisper in private that they were going to support Donald Trump for president. They would talk about the fact the Democrats had gone too crazy. We had to get Gary Gensler the hell out of there, but they weren't quite willing to say, at least not publicly, that they were going to take the big step and support Donald J. Trump. And Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, I think they were some of the first big names in Silicon Valley to take that step, and a whole host of people followed them. So Cameron and Tyler, thank you for that. And of course, I want to thank the good people at Coinbase, the organizers of this event, and everybody who made this incredible event possible. It's great to be here with Bitcoin at 108,000, at least when I checked this morning, and as Vice President of the United States. It's great to be here. Now, you guys know I get to meet a lot of exciting people in my job, but it's been quite a while since I've been to a conference with this level of energy. I mean, hell, you guys came out here at 9 a.m. after a long night, I'm sure, in Las Vegas. You can't do that without a lot of good energy. But I promise I'm not just saying that to juice my own meme coins. But I think it's wrong, actually, to call this just a conference. This isn't a conference of people. This is a movement, and I'm proud to stand with you here today. And I think this conference, this movement of people, is where the future of cryptocurrency in this great country gets decided. So let's start by making one thing abundantly clear. That future is going to be decided by the people, by you, not by unelected bureaucrats. Now, as you all probably know, you've got a star-studded lineup here today, including several of my colleagues in the Trump administration. David, Bo, Hester, I know you're all out there. It's great to be among so many friends and allies. So I want to speak for just a few minutes about a few things, and I want to talk a little bit about what we've done in the Trump administration. I want to give you a rundown of what this administration is doing on digital assets policy. But I also want to talk about some of the principles that help guide us as we develop this policy. But before that, I want to speak about why I'm personally optimistic about crypto and what it means for the American people. Now, people ask me why I tend to be bullish on the future of innovation in this country. Now, I spent enough time in Silicon Valley to recognize the difference between good tech, technology that boosts our productivity, makes our lives richer, that grounds us in the real world and complements our day-to-day lives. That's the good technology, but there's also some bad technology out there. And when it comes to crypto, I think the last several years have made it clear that we're talking about genuine, ground-up innovation, one that's already improving the well-being of tens of millions of our fellow citizens. I believe it's 50 million Americans own Bitcoin, and I believe that's going to be 100 million before too long. But it's not just about Bitcoin and about the value that's been generated, the wealth that's been generated by so many millions of our fellow citizens. Through decentralized finance, crypto has transformed how Americans transact with one another. It's expanded access to banking for many who may not otherwise have had it. And every single day, I feel like I see some groundbreaking new use of blockchain tech, whether it's in supply chain management, whether it's in hospitals, or whether it's in changing how we track and store patients' private health records. But for each of these new forward-looking applications, I also feel like there's an incredibly conservative element to crypto technology, and that's as a hedge. Crypto is a hedge against bad policymaking from Washington, no matter what party is in control. It's a hedge against skyrocketing inflation, which has eroded the real savings rate of Americans over the last 4 years. And as you all know well, it's a hedge against a private sector that's increasingly willing to discriminate against consumers on the basis of their basic beliefs, including their politics. That includes, of course, debanking users for Second Amendment advocacy or for ties to the first Trump administration. In Canada, the government did the same to kill those big truck driver protests in 2022. Less than a week later, they succeeded. The protests were over. But maybe most importantly, I see crypto as a hedge against one of the most dangerous trends in the digital era in both the public and private sectors. And that's of elites who, rather than innovate themselves, prefer to simply take over and co-opt cutting-edge technologies to assert their control over other people. And I know we believe this in this room. That's not Bitcoin. It'll never be Bitcoin. And you guys are going to make sure that happens. But as you know, there's a new sheriff in town because after 4 years of mistreatment and outright hostility led by Democrat regulators, lawmakers in this country have a choice. Will we lead our nation into a future of financial sovereignty, of innovation, and of prosperity, or will we let unelected bureaucrats and foreign competitors write the rules for us? And I'm here today to say loud and clear, with President Trump, crypto finally has a champion and an ally in the White House. In our administration, we understand the full potential of the digital assets industry, not just as an investment, not just as a flashy technology, but as a symbol and driver of personal liberty for all our citizens. And we are dedicated to seeing that promise fulfilled. The way that we see it, the people in this room are the digital pioneers of the American economy. And that's why our administration is doing something a little unusual in Washington. We're listening to all of you as you blaze the trail of innovation. The innovators in this room are making people's lives better. You're pushing boundaries and solving problems, injecting unprecedented transparency into how we do commerce. And the way we see it, you all deserve a similar level of transparency and clarity. And most of all, you deserve respect and support from your government, not bureaucrats trying to tear you down. Now that means a few substantive concrete steps. And of course, the first and most important of those steps is straightforward. We've got to clean up the wreckage that the last administration left us. And since day one, that is exactly what we've been trying to do. Our administration, we prioritized eliminating the rules, the red tape, and the lawfare that we saw aimed at crypto by our predecessors. We're ending the weaponization of federal regulations against this community. To put it simply, Operation Choke Point 2.0 is dead, and it's not coming back under the Trump administration. And by the way, it's crazy that was ever even controversial, the idea of using the regulatory power of the government to crush an industry and to crush people who espoused a view that you didn't like. It's crazy, but let my words today serve as Operation Choke Point. Let me serve as its obituary. Now this is my vow to every single person here. You will never see this administration trying to handicap your community or diminish the impact it's had on the economy. Instead, we reject the Biden administration's legacy of death by 1,000 enforcement actions. We reject regulators. Maybe the most important thing that we did for this community, we reject regulators and we fired Gary Gensler, and we're going to fire everybody like him. And we know that people like Gary Gensler, the game that they played is that under the pretense of consumer protection, they attacked every single effort to democratize our financial markets, and that is over. America. I grew up in a working class family. I believe that America is a place where anyone should be able to make a fortune, no matter where you grew up, what degree you may or may not have. And in recent years, I'm hard-pressed to think of a better place to do so than right here in the digital assets industry. Now, our second substantive step is we're trying to create a clear, pro-growth legal framework for stablecoins in this country. And I know we've got some solid allies in Congress. Is Cynthia Loomis out there today, or she already go home? Well, you know, I was supposed to have dinner last night with Cynthia Loomis. We had a little event yesterday, and I looked around, I said, where the hell is Cynthia Loomis? And somebody said, well, she's got a dinner she had to go to. And I said, I'm the vice president. Unless she's having dinner with the president, Cynthia does not have an excuse to skip this event. But we love Cynthia, and I know that she's one of the great advocates for your industry in the United States Congress. Now, I know, led by Cynthia and other great legislators, Congress is hard at work getting the Genius Act passed and across the president's desk as quickly as possible. And that's an important step. It's with good reason, because regulatory uncertainty in this country has pushed way too much stablecoin activity overseas over the last few years. Now, somebody said to me yesterday that Bitcoin has done so much over the last few years with so many headwinds. Wouldn't it be nice to have a government that provided some tailwinds to one of the fastest growing industries in our country? And that's what we aim to do. And once the Genius Act is enacted, it's poised to vastly expand the use of stable coins as a digital payment system for millions of our fellow Americans. It'll also protect coin holders and inject further transparency into the market. And let me be emphatic on one other point. In this administration, we do not think that stable coins threaten the integrity of the United States dollar. Quite the opposite. In fact, we view them as a force multiplier of our economic might. Dollar-pegged stablecoins, particularly once Genius is enacted, is only going to help the American economy, and it's only going to help the American dollar. So, again, we're optimistic that the Senate is able to move quickly on passing a clean Genius Act, and for the House to follow up and do the same. And of course, once that happens, our great President Trump will sign it into law the minute it comes across his desk. Now, when that's happened, when the administration will then fully shift to our third priority, which is to enact a transparent and tailored regulatory framework for digital assets, one that's pro-innovation and fully incorporates crypto into the mainstream economy. And again, I've talked to so many of you over the last couple of days, and the consistent fear that I hear with all the great things that have happened over the last couple of months, the consistent fear that I hear is that there's still this perception that digital assets are not welcome in the mainstream economy. And let me promise you that our effort to change the policy is purely about changing that. We want our fellow Americans to know that crypto and digital assets, and particularly Bitcoin, are part of the mainstream economy and are here to stay. Now, we think the way to do that legislatively, because again, I hope that our party is in charge for a long time, but nothing is ever guaranteed in politics. So the best way to ensure that crypto is part of the mainstream economy is through a market structure bill that champions and doesn't restrict the extraordinary value that Bitcoin and other digital assets represent. Right now, in this Congress and with this administration, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to unleash innovation and use it to improve the lives of countless American citizens. But if we fail to create regulatory clarity now, we risk chasing this $3 trillion industry offshore in search of a friendlier jurisdiction, and President Trump is going to fight to make sure that does not happen. Think about this. By locking in smart, pro-innovation rules of the road, we can also make sure that Democrats or anybody else never wage another war on the crypto community. Now, I've already hit my time here, but before I head back to Washington, let me offer you just a few bits of advice and a few thoughts on where this industry is going. This is one politician's perspective, so take it for what it's worth. Maybe a little bit less than one Bitcoin right now. But let me say a few things. First of all, I remember when I ran for Senate the first time I had to ever enter politics back in 2022. And one of the frustrations, honestly, that I had with the crypto community as a person who was one of the only people running for office who actually owned Bitcoin, and I still own a fair amount of Bitcoin today. Think about this. This is during that campaign. That's 2021 and 2022. This feels like an eternity ago, but it was only 4 years ago, is that I recognize what so many advocates of Bitcoin recognize, which is what the Biden administration was doing, what Gary Gensler was doing was a disaster, and yet there didn't seem to be any real organization pushing back against it at the political level. And let me say that part of the reason that I'm standing here, part of the reason that Bernie Moreno defeated Sherrod Brown in the Senate campaign last year is because you guys got organized and got involved in American politics, and I'm grateful to you for that. But there's a lesson to take from that experience, which is that unless you guys get involved in politics, politics is going to ignore this industry. Now, you took a big step in 2024, and I tell you, every victory that we win, it's only a provisional victory. You know, one of my great mentors in Silicon Valley always told me that, Bitcoin, that the crypto community was about exit and artificial intelligence was about voice. Well, I know that a lot of people in 2024 in this community chose voice. You chose to speak up and you chose to get involved, and I believe you changed the direct trajectory of our country because of it. But you got to keep on choosing voice. Bitcoin, of course, people call it digital gold. But while Bitcoin is digital, none of you are. None of us are. What happens in the world of politics, what happens in the world of bureaucracy, it will affect even the most transformational and valuable technologies if we don't make the right decisions. So the first piece of advice, the first thing that I'd ask you is to take the momentum of your political involvement in 2024 and carry it forward to 2026 and beyond. Don't ignore politics, because I guarantee you, my friends, politics is not going to ignore this community, not now and not in the future. The second thing that I want to toss out there is that we have to start thinking of the long-term strategic implications of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is owned by about 50 million Americans. A lot of Americans have made a lot of money, have created a lot of wealth for themselves, and that's a great thing. But I actually think that where Bitcoin is going is as a strategically important asset for the United States over the next decade. It's one of the reasons why President Trump, with the help of our great AI guy, David Sachs, it's one of the reasons why we started the Bitcoin Reserve, because we want to start to put in motion the strategic importance of Bitcoin for the United States government. We know that the PRC doesn't like Bitcoin. The People's Republic of China doesn't like Bitcoin. Well, we should be asking ourselves, why is that? Why is our biggest adversary such an opponent of Bitcoin? And if the Communist Republic of China is leaning away from Bitcoin, then maybe the United States ought to be leaning into Bitcoin. And that's one of the things that we're going to be doing. But that's not a vice president standing up here and talking at you. The way that Bitcoin is involved in the strategic future of our country, that's got to be a two-way conversation. And so when I talk about getting involved in politics, one of the things that you guys got to do is continue to give us feedback and continue to tell us the ways in which Bitcoin can play a positive role in the strategic future of this country. I know the Bitcoin Policy Institute is working on this very topic now, but all of you have got to be involved in this conversation, because I don't think any of us want to wake up in a country 10 years from now that is less wealthy and less prosperous because we made bad decisions today. We're going to make the right decisions, but that depends on you guys being part of the conversation. So be part of that conversation. And here's the third thought that I want to leave you with. One of the ways you hear this stated is that crypto is fundamentally a conservative or right-leaning technology, and artificial intelligence is fundamentally a left-leaning or a communist technology. Now, I think that overstates things a little bit in both directions, but there's a fundamental element of truth to it. Now, I haven't been involved in the day-to-day operations of a technology company in about 4 years since I entered politics for the very first time. But what I've noticed is that very smart right-wing people in tech tend to be attracted to Bitcoin and crypto, and very smart left-leaning people in tech tend to be more attracted to AI. Again, that's a gross generalization. It's an overstatement, but there's an element of truth to it. But what I'd ask you all is to remember that what happens in AI is very much going to affect, in good and bad ways, what happens to Bitcoin. And of course, what happens to Bitcoin is very much going to affect what happens in AI. So, while this is certainly a Bitcoin conference, and I know we're all proud of what you guys have accomplished over the last 10 years, my final piece of advice is to make sure you're keeping tabs on and staying involved in what's happening with artificial intelligence, because I don't want Bitcoin to be negatively affected by what happens in AI. And most importantly, I don't want America to be negatively affected by what happens in AI. And the best way to ensure that smart people are at the AI conversation is to ensure that Bitcoin is part of the artificial intelligence conversation. Our administration is committed to it. I want you guys to be committed to it as well. I just want to say in the next few years in the Trump administration, we've accomplished a lot, but we have plans to continue to make big progress for this industry and for the American people who rely on it. The whole of government, we're going to need your help. We're going to need your guidance. We're going to need your encouragement. And at times, yes, because this is politics, our politicians are going to need your pressure. So have fun this week, but keep the pressure up. And we'll do great things together for our industry, but most importantly, for the cause of personal freedom and the United States of America. God bless you guys, and thanks for having me.
You know what I find interesting? Here's what I find interesting, especially today of all days. And maybe some of you can relate. So, hold on a second. I'm stopping this video. There were quite a few people who were upset with what Colonel McGregor said, because he went against what Trump had been saying. They didn't like that he was bucking the system and doing something that, President Trump was doing, advocating for. Yet, I look in the chat and I see many, many, many people commenting about, I don't like Bitcoin, it's a scam, blah, 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 blah. And so you're doing the exact same thing. Yeah, I mean, it's your choice. You are entitled to do that. But don't you now realize you did the exact same thing? Colonel McGregor, I think Trump's not doing the right thing, blah, blah, blah. Oh, why is he saying that? Trump's doing the right thing. I don't like Bitcoin. I think it's a scam. It shouldn't be bought. It doesn't mean anything. It's worth nothing. So you're going against what Trump and JD are doing. President Trump has said that he wants to be a leader in AI and he wants to be a leader in Bitcoin. And we've got people here in the chat amongst us who are like, I don't want to do it. If I can't hold it in my hand, it's not worth anything. Don't you find that to be a little bit hypocritical? The guy that you voted for, that you stand behind, who's advocating very strongly for the United States to be the leader in AI, to be the leader in Bitcoin, and you're saying you don't like it? It makes no sense. A couple of people, I'm out. I don't even want to hear what JD Vance, your vice president, the guy you voted for, you don't even want to hear what he has to say, somebody said. How can that possibly be? How can you be so rah-rah here and then, oh, hell no, I don't want to hear none of this stuff, and you just turn into Colonel McGregor and like everybody else? Some people got some serious mirror looking ahead, because it doesn't make any sense. It's the same thing. You're completely against what the president and vice president and many others are advocating for. So perhaps the better response is, I don't know enough about this. I need to go educate myself. Nobody's telling you to run out and buy Bitcoin. Nobody's telling you you gotta have it. But the one thing you should have, because it's free, is education. What is preventing you from going and learning? Because you're exposing yourself when you say certain things and people go, oh God, you really don't know what you're talking about. And you're letting everybody else know that you don't know what you're talking about. There was one gentleman, I don't know who it was like, I can't use Bitcoin. It's not, I can't put it in my wallet. And I said, I was joking when I said to him, so if I buy your mortgage with Bitcoin and evict you and foreclose on you, would that prove it to you? Yes, you can buy houses with Bitcoin. Yep. You can actually buy a house with Bitcoin. So although it's not in your wallet, it is in your digital wallet. And there are people, I have paid for artwork and different kind of editing with videos with Bitcoin from people across the world. So it might behoove a lot of people to step back before their fingers hit the keyboard or whatever they're doing, if they're doing it on a phone, and go, I don't know enough about this to contribute to the conversation, and I definitely don't know enough about this to be negative in the conversation. Because all you're doing by doing that is showing two things. One, you don't support President Trump, because you just heard the vice president and you've heard President Trump speak of this. Number two, you're letting everybody know that you don't support the president and you don't know what you're talking about. And I don't want you to feel that way when people look at you like, what the hell are you talking about? There's so much out there that President Trump is allowing us to learn. And JD was right. Democrats don't want you to know anything about this. If they can't control it, they don't want you to have any access to it. President Trump and this administration are opening eyes, opening doors, opening opportunity. What happened here? Everything. Oh, Ashley was sending me something. But anyway, just understand, we're all together here as a family. SB is, if he doesn't like something you're saying, I don't have anything to do if he tells you to go away. But instead of being so negative, so being such a negative Nelly, maybe ask somebody who's actually doing it. Remember I've said that before? Don't ask people who have never done it, because then you're going to just get people like you. Like BLS Doom Crew and B. Michael Nace and some people in here who are been knee-deep into crypto, who understand the nuances of it. Ask them. That's why they're sitting here. Ask them and say, hey, listen, can you tell me what to do here and how I should do it and what I can do? They're sitting in your chat. As you're watching it go by, you can just jump in and go, hey, man, tell me what you know. Tell me where do I look? How do I do this? What's a digital wallet? What happens if the power grid goes down? Do I still have my Bitcoin? Pretty much, if the power grid goes down, you're going to want Bitcoin and you're going to want gold and silver. See, that's the antithesis of what you're thinking. You're thinking, I'll be toast if the power goes down. Well, you're only going to be toast if you're not preparing for the power going down. What happens if the grid gets taken out? You're pretty much telling us all you're toast. I only have cash. Okay, see how long that works. The difference is reading a book online from your iPad or holding and reading a real book in your hands. Yeah, but again, your president, vice president, and that administration are advocating for it and are owners of it. You think? I can't. Let's see here. I'm not for Bitcoin, but I'm not against it. No, that's fine. Nobody has to be for Bitcoin. All I'm saying is that so much is happening so quickly that it would behoove people to understand and learn about it, so that you have a rational basis for it and everything else. And then you may find out that your stance as to why you're not for it may change. because you're for dollar bills. Well, I can hold the dollar bill. That's be the first argument somebody can say. Well, I can hold it in my digital wallet, but you don't consider that have you ever, okay, here, Gina, here's a question. Have you ever bought anything with Bitcoin? Have you ever transacted? See, that would be the question I would ask somebody. Have you ever used it to see how it works? And I'm not talking even about an investment. I'm just talking about holding some so you have it available to you. Let's see here. I bought a little Bitcoin since President Trump and Barry support it. Now, don't do that. Don't do it because I support it. My thing is, if the guy I voted for is saying he's not just supporting Bitcoin, he has said he wants the country to be a leader in Bitcoin. So understand what President Trump and J.D. Vance and what they're saying to you. They're not telling you I support it. They're not saying I think, it might be something worthwhile. They're taking it to 10. We don't just not believe, we don't just believe in it. We just don't think it should be something you diversify. We want to be the world leaders. That's a big difference between, hey, it's okay. Oh, no, it's so okay. We want to be the leaders. What about AI? AI, I'm not really sure. Again, there's a big difference between AI and we want to be the leaders in AI. So as I gather my stories and I begin to talk to you guys and look at news, I'm just letting you know what they're saying. Nobody's making this stuff up. This is specifically what the President of the United States has been advocating for quite some time. And it's a culture shock to people because they can't even believe from their own confirmation bias or cognitive dissonance that this could actually be happening. You don't want to wake up one day and say, I wish I could have, or I should have learned, or I would have known, that all this stuff makes sense and what it actually means. That's on you. I can't bring you to water. Like SV has said to me, you can't make people drink. Nope, I don't intend to. But I can try to help you to educate yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not going to waste your time by educating yourself. Nobody wasted time learning something. Nope, not possible. It's a value. Just like anything else that of value, you have to learn it. When I first did this, I didn't know what microphone to buy. I didn't know what lights to get, which camera. I had to learn it. I went through like 4 or 5 different microphones, 2 cameras, lights, different things I wanted to do with software. Imagine right now you'd like to start a podcast. And if you started your podcast today, what would you do? You'd have to educate yourself on all the different things. And guess what? It keeps changing. You have to keep upgrading your game and talking. And I'm not going to belabor the point, but I'm telling you, you gotta begin looking at what's going on around you. All right. All right. So let me do the super chat so I can get out of here and be ready for 7:30 tonight. All right. Job for 9. Barry, thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for watching. Beverly Litton, I need to find good fiduciary to guide me in my retirement. Retired last June and RMDs are draining my savings. Many seniors may not know about how RMDs eat into their savings for the future. I know a lot of people didn't want me to keep talking about money, but I'll work on that for you. Starfleet, the colonel is a strong speaker with a military mind. He pulls no punches with his opinions. Indeed. How Granny sees it. I'm a Betty supporter. Betty Johnson says he started with the gratuitous cussing and schoolboy potty humor and extreme hyperbole turned us off. Sorry to hear that. Billy Jack, $5, Barry, isn't it treason if border agents take bribes? They're terrorist groups who would risk death penalty for $30,000. Yeah, they're dirty. He's referring to Colonel McGregor said there's people who on the other side of the border, on the Mexican side, that are taking that a lot of money. Cool. Colonel McGregor is 100% right. Cutesy time is over. Got to do something. You're hearing a lot of people say that. Got to do something. Rock and roll Glemmy. Barry, is that a Groot over your right shoulder with Robin's art? Yep, that's him. Right. I don't know how you saw that. Right there. That's Groot. Oh, well, hold on. Got to do it this way. Yep, that's Groot right there. I don't even know how you can see it. It's kind of dark back there, but that is indeed Groot. Good eye. Good eye. Wow, that's amazing. I'm not sure this guy's legit. I get the same feeling I got with Pence. Yeah, well, at least Colonel McGregor is not on the inside. Jenny, I subscribe to Rotten Mango. They do true crime. Okay, there you go. That's what I wonder. She's currently covering the Diddy trial. She's been in the courtroom. Her view shot to the moon. Wow. Okay. Wondering. I never heard of Rotten Mango. That's very, very, very cool. So many different ways to do this stuff. Granny C, giving Bongino the benefit. It's only been 10 days. He said that on 5/18. Okay, so that 2-week thing, we got 4 more days. Okay. Yeah, would make sense. Sunday would be the 2 weeks. We shall see. I sold a house. Just another knucklehead. How you doing, man? I sold a house closed January 3rd. It was a hold-up selling because the people used some cryptocurrency. There was a problem tracing the origin of that money. But it closed, so you made your money. Velta, Russia says Grimes is a male in the WNBA. I'm not touching that on YouTube. Nicholas Lamonic. Oh, by the way, by what just another knucklehead said, he just said he underscored what I said. I can buy your house. You can actually buy a house with Bitcoin. So it took some time to trace it, but it got there and he closed the deal. So that should tell you right there. There's somebody right here in your family, in the Fanfare family, just another knucklehead's been here for quite some time, and he sold his house to somebody who used cryptocurrency to buy a house. Bingo. Nicholas, Barry, you're absolutely right. President Trump is opening opportunities for us all. Just take advantage of the information which opens opportunities. That's all I'm preaching. I'm not telling anybody to do something, but I am advocating and telling you, begin learning. You don't even have to ever buy a Bitcoin, but you know, hold on, let me come back to that. Mel Porter, Bitcoin is going to be the future. I agree. I am not telling anyone to go ahead and buy Bitcoin. But what I am telling people is to perhaps educate yourself because of one thing. Maybe the one thing you might want to check is, why is President Trump advocating for Bitcoin? Maybe that's the first question you start digging or asking Grok or doing whatever you do. Why is he doing this? It seems foreign. I don't understand why he'd be even doing it. Maybe that's what you need to do, is start looking at that. Because that may get you to read. Tim Torp says, how much is Bitcoin going for right now? All right, so there was somebody earlier, and I'm not sure, I can't remember her name, but she said she can't afford Bitcoin. And I was like, yes, you can. Yes, Bitcoin right now is over $100,000 for one single coin. But unlike gold, or unlike dollars, you can buy really small percentages of Bitcoin. So you can spend $50 and buy yourself some Bitcoin. Imagine that. Imagine that. We got a couple late ones that came in before I sign off. Night Watchman, please do a show about Bitcoin experts. Some of us don't know anything, but we can ask the questions. I've done some, and just like with the real estate, we had people pissed off. Why are you talking about money? I don't know why people get pissed off, but I'll look at bringing somebody else in. And Penny Quarter says, people should know unless they have 100,000 physical gold at home, they can't get the money from a bank either if the grid goes down. Well, not here in Florida. Ron DeSantis just passed a law saying gold and silver is legal tender. So you're going to see many, many businesses begin to understand how to convert that and use it to actually buy things. So it depends on where you are, but that's about to change in a big, big way. So tonight, just want to let you know, tonight at 7:30, I'm going to talk about Harvard, going to talk about some other crazy stuff. And then I've got my buddy Ben from, well, it's no longer the veteran biker, it's just Ben Dykes. Ben Dykes, I believe that's his name, Ben Dykes from Veteran Biker, will be here tonight. We're going to just talk turkey, see what's going on with him. I love having him. This guy always shoots straight. I understand he's gotten into a war with some other guy out there, but nonetheless, he's been good with me, and we'll talk to him tonight. And you guys are welcome to show up. We're going to do the normal thing tonight. We'll do the show, and then what I'm going to do is we'll do the jump over, and then we'll talk to Ben on the other side. So, see you guys tonight at 7:30, and bring your friends, tell your family. We'll see you tonight.